I was working on another video, but I honestly my voice is not all the way there. So we are gonna go with something that I can kind of just talk through, and not really have it matter for much. But we're here to talk about Mega Evolutions with the next Pokemon ZA game, uh, Legends ZA coming out. And Mega Evolutions are coming back in the fold with possibly new ones. I thought it would be a good time to kind of check out and rank all the Mega Evolutions. I don't think I've done this before. I think maybe I ranked them way back when they originally came out, but opinions have changed, and a lot of them are going to be based on when you actually get them in the game, and so on and so forth. But there will be some competitive bias. Like a great example is probably Sableye. I do think like some of these Pokemon like are made to be really stupid in a competitive environment and not really fun in game. So yeah, but I think we should probably talk about the very first Mega Evolution that I think you could technically have access to. Was the event Blaziken. Kind of funny. The event Blaziken back in the day for X and Y was there, and I'm gonna be really honest. We're gonna go in massively out of order, but I just feel like this is a decent starting point. Also, I've realized something. Am I missing? There's Swamp. Oh, there's Sceptile. Okay, I was like, oh, it is in order of alphabetical. But I want to talk about Blaziken because I do think this Pokemon, uh, along with the other Hoenn starters, which we'll get to, I do feel like are pretty like good examples of just mid Mega Evolutions. They don't really spectacularize the actual like look of it. They don't make it something that it really shouldn't be. Besides, maybe we could talk about Swampert, but like it's overall just more of a nice thing than outright breaking stuff. Not to mention these Mega Evolutions are broken, Blaziken especially, and then I mean Swampert's pretty broken too. But uh, it's just one of those things of I do think these are probably how I would like Mega Evolutions to be. They do something insanely well, and they just that's it. It's a powerhouse for older Pokemon. I do think Sceptile gets kind of screwed over. It's definitely the worst of the three. Uh, it really doesn't help that its dual typing is just miserable for just anything. Grass Dragon is not that great of a type. Grass in general just sucks. But yeah, it was nice to see these three get Mega Evolutions, especially after X and Y basically broke open the floodgates. And I do think personally I like Sceptile as my favorite Hoenn starter, mostly childhood memories. But when it comes to Mega Evolutions, I actually think Swampert's probably my favorite. But I will admit that its design is a little lackluster. I do like it, but it's not all the way there. And I think Blaziken is the best of both worlds, where it's good and serviceable to actually play it. By the way, I realized there's no B there. I think I deleted B on accident, or maybe it just I deleted like 7 rows. Okay, there was a lot of rows, but I think it only makes sense to talk about the other starters, which I started with the fire starter, so I think we'll talk about this. I happen to think that both Charizards are actually really, really good. Uh, it's kind of funny because I'm one of those people that really hates that Charizard gets this favoritism. It's really triggering to me that like a bunch of other Pokemon will never get it, and Charizard gets two. That's not to mention Mewtwo, but I happen to think these both go into how you kind of viewed Charizard. If you were like, oh, it's a dragon type, here you go. Oh, it's supposed to be a flying type. Here you go. It controls the weather when it shows up. That's sick as hell. I honestly like both these forms. I don't really like facing them in competitive in any regard. This is just weather spam, especially with Weather Ball being super powerful now. And then you have, of course, Dragon Dance. With Roost, really not a fun spread. But let's talk about Venusaur. I think Venusaur getting thick fat is honestly really interesting. It's really weird to kind of make this a tankier Pokemon. I do think it's cool, especially since now poison typings are kind of important for the fairy counter, especially when this was introduced. It was very, very important to have that really powerful sludge bomb. But I don't know. It's always been missing a piece of its move pool in every generation. Originally, it needed a ground move to kind of counter Heatran. It eventually got it, but it was too late to matter, and and now it just doesn't. It doesn't have enough options. It doesn't help that being a grass type isn't great. You're also taking a lot of neutral hits from a lot of random stuff because of the poison typing. If you're taking like a neutral hit on ground when you're going to switch into it is really frustrating. You're taking super effective on psychic, which let me tell you, there's a lot of psychic types here. Overall, Venusaur, I love the design choices. I wish it was a little bigger looking, and I wish its move pool was a little better. But I love Blastoise. I think Blastoise is my personal like favorite in just design, but it's Shell Smash or 4 attacks. That's basically all Blastoise ever is. I do think of all the starters I put up, it actually has the least changes to its design. It just kind of gets a hunchback and goes with 2 cannons, which, don't get me wrong, sick as hell, but it's kind of with Swampert in this one. I do like it over Blaziken though. And I think that's the starters. I think we're just going to start going in random order or just alphabetical because I think starters... Oh, let's talk about Mewtwo real quick. I don't really like both versions of Mewtwo. I think this one sucks. I like this because for like how people talked about it, it was very interesting. Like another form of Frieza was always a funny thing. Like, oh, is that the 5th form of Frieza? It was very fun to be a part of Pokemon at the time when this was first showcased. I don't really like the fighting type here. I get it, but I don't. I think it's just. I also don't like how it looks. I like Mewtwo's like sleek design, and I like this because of nostalgia, and also at the same time, it doesn't really take away the sleekness. It just adds this kind of even more alien looking thing, making it more look like a clone than anything to Mew, which is cool. But bulky Mewtwo, I don't really like. I just don't like the design. Abomasnow, I actually wish they did something way different than this. I think it's my least favorite so far. It also doesn't help that Abomasnow, even though it is a decent Mega Evolution, I don't think there's really a bad one based on design. It's probably one of the lamest ones, which goes into Absol, which I also think is really not that great. I do think it's better than Sceptile, but I think the wings would have been cool for something else. I do think like I get the idea they were going with, where Absol was like, oh, this is the warning for destruction and stuff. It's interesting. I'm just not a big fan. Aerodactyl, I really don't understand this Mega Evolution. I almost want to play in D, but it's fine. I like it has the same problem with Abomasnow is where I just don't really get what they were going for. Like, you have an ancient Pokemon, and so you put rocks on it. It's already a why? But I don't know. I feel like you could have done something to make it much more like a meaner looking, more like holy crap, completely different look, or something. You could have changed this a lot more, in my opinion. I do like the tail. The tail looks pretty nice, but Mega Aggron, I actually really like this. The pure steel type is a nice change, and I do think it looks quite sick. The only problem I kind of have with it is it's very nowadays it's not very like noticeably that fun to play with or play against. It has its moments, but it's very lackluster. But I do like the design. It looks like a tank, which cool. Filter's interesting, but I don't think I could put it over any of these. I do like Aggron quite a bit, and Mega Aggron when it first showed up was my like, oh, I have to use that Mega Evolution and Camerupt. But overall, did like it. I'm gonna be really honest. I don't really like Mega Alakazam's design, but it is really fun to play. It's also kind of easy to mitigate how broken it is because it's super frail. But it can be a little bit too much of a sweeper. But I happen to think the design is not good. Like, I do like the Mystic Arts they went with, but I feel like it would have been cool to have the spoons go into maybe like tarot cards or even like a crystal ball instead would have been cool. I understand there's already like versions of that in Pokemon technically, but it would have been cool to see back then. I just think, ooh, more spoons is funny, but not necessarily great. Uh, I happen to think Mega Altaria is one of my favorite looking Mega Evolutions, and it's such a subtle change. Just making it more like Cloud like is cool, and also just having that type change is amazing. I happen to think this is a really sick Mega Evolution. I also love using it. It's not great, don't get me wrong, but it's really fun. Also goes into Mega Ampharos. The fact that you kind of just added this, an Electric Dragon is also very fun. It's just really cool. I happen to think the design wise, it probably beats out Mega Altaria, but I like using Altaria more. Um, a gimmick for a gimmick. I don't like Audino at all, and I don't like the Mega. The Mega is like if it was just a completely separate Pokemon, it'd probably be in C, but Audino sucks. It's probably one of my least favorites. We'll talk about my actual least favorite, but Bayonetta, I see when it comes to like this Pokemon, I like how it looks. I think it's cool to have it like spill out of zippers and stuff. I just I don't think it's really like doing much for me play wise. It's not doing anything super interesting, uh, but I do like it. Mm, I guess design wise, I'd probably put it up here. I'm already building a nice little in between in the A tier, like I usually do in the middle tiers. Mega Beedrill, this is one of my favorites. I love Mega Beedrill. Beedrill in general is a Pokemon that people have written off for years. And then, of course, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire come around and it gets a Mega Evolution. And a lot of people still wrote it off then, and rightfully so. It wasn't super spectacular, but it was a threat in singles, and I think that was adorable and fun. Is the Super Glass Cannon of Super Glass Cannons, and it's fun to use. That's all I want. Mega Camera, I love this. I love that basically the only thing that changed is that 2 became 1, but it's much more like just funny bone haha than actual like funny. And while it is cool, it kind of sucks to use sometimes. So yeah, Mega Diancie I think is actually a really beautiful showcase of how to do megas correctly. Uh, because you take something as simple as Diancie, and I know I'm saying it wrong. Screw you. Uh, and then you put it into like a beautification form, and it comes out like this. This looks like a completely different Pokemon. It looks like a true evolution, which is what I hoped Mega Evolution would be for a lot of these. A lot of the lower ones you can see, it doesn't really look like an evolution happened. It looks like they got highlights in their hair, which, don't get me wrong, can be very cool looking, but it doesn't feel like a new form. It doesn't feel like that. And like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely one of my favorite lookings. I don't really like playing against it, but that's me. Mega Glade I think is super uninteresting. I think it goes below Sceptile, which also goes because it's here Mega Gardevoir. Don't get me wrong, I love using Mega Gardevoir. It's one of my favorite to use, but it's super uninteresting. I get what they were going for with both of them. Eventually, I do think Gardevoir is better than Glade, but I can't sit behind it. I don't really like it. I do like Garchomp a lot. It looks monstrous. That's the word I would use. I like its design a lot more than I actually like using it. I think Garchomp normally is usually the better pick, but if you have the right kind of build or you're going for something fun, it's really fun to end up using. I think it looks really scary, which is cool. But it's always going to be kind of in the shadow of its non-Mega Evolution form. So, Mega Gengar. This is going to come out for a lot of people that know me, and even if you look at the channel picture, Gengar fan. Duh. I think Mega Gengar isn't that great of a design. I like the idea they were going for, and I do think it's cool, and I do think it can be like scary if they want to. I just think it does really garbage stuff play wise that isn't really fun in game. Yeah, like it's a stronger Pokemon, cool, which is all Mega Evolutions normally. Um, but like in game, if you're playing this and you're just doing it for the like you're going around in like the attractions or whatever, it's just a stronger Pokemon. and it doesn't really change what it's doing. Like, yeah, now it has Shadow Tag and forces Destiny Bond, and cool, but that's more of a competitive thing. I mean, it feels very lackluster in that regard, which really sucks. I like the original Gengar a lot, and I do like this design. I just think play wise is very boring. Glalie, I think, is also kind of boring, but it's funny because I like the design. I like the design about the same as I like Mega Gengars, but I think Glalie is better to play. And because of that, I'm actually going to put it right here. I think Mega Glalie is actually very fun, especially with access to Explosion. Very funny thing. Ice Explosion, cool as hell. Mega Gyarados. I think this is like probably one of the, I don't want to say like most interesting, almost there evolutions, but I do think it could have been a lot better. I do like the idea they were going for where like you go from flying to dark so you can do some like shenanigans with the typings. It does have a fantastic move pool to pull off water dark, and it's strong as hell. At the same time though, I design wise I like most of it until you look at the bottom. I just don't like that. I feel like you could have gone with more yellow, or you could have done like a pure white thing. I don't really like the dark underscale for just showing it's a dark type. I get it, it's to be like, oh, it's a dark type, guys, look at it. I get that, but overall I think it kind of ruins it for me personally, but still a very good Pokemon. I think I I'm sorry, I totally forgot the Pokemon's name. Heracross, there we go. Mega Heracross's Mega Evolution is boring. Skill Link is fun for a little bit, and then you use it a bunch, and you're done. You're bored. Cool. It also doesn't really change much for Heracross. It gets a lot tankier, which is cool, but I'm at the same time, I like, did this really need to be here? Not really. Which also kind of goes with I would probably give Houndoom here. It's probably my almost in D. Like, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's the same thing it's always been doing. Cool. And a lot of people would be like, well, Kangaskhan's the same thing. No, because it's doing something completely different. It's broken as hell, too. But I do actually like Mega Kangaskhan. I like the fact that the baby actually kind of grows up, so to say, and is able to help out in battle. It's just the aesthetic is really nice. I like the form itself. It does good work. Though, keep it banned for the rest of time, please. I honestly think both Lotties are terrible. I get, like, the jet plane thing. I'm not super sold on them. Mega Lopunny I actually really enjoy. I'd probably put it actually next to Blaziken. It's very fun design wise, and also it fits the change they did to it, which is really cool. It also, I mean, these are sibling coded, right? Mega Lucario I think is cool, but I don't think it's like super impressive. It's kind of like in the same, I was putting the tiers separated at a certain point where it's just like all you're doing is adding highlights. But I do think it's definitely one of the better ones in this regard. I think it looks pretty sick. It looks like a hero. Uh, this Mega Evolution is hilarious because, yes, don't get me wrong, I do think design-wise it's a little fucking stupid. It's a little stupid, but it's so fun to use. I think this Pokemon's freaking hilarious. Mawile. By the way, I don't think I said Manectric's name at all, which is funny. Mega Mawile is interesting, but at the same time, I don't really like. I get the type change. I do like its design. I think I'd probably put it like here. Probably better than Glalie, honestly. Mega Metachamp. I don't actually like this Mega Evolution, which I know is blasphemy for people. I do think it's better than these, but it's just super highlights, and it's literally the same Pokemon. It was gonna do that in its normal form or Mega. It did not matter. It could do a lot better in its Mega, no duh, but yeah. Mega Metagross. I actually really like this Pokemon. I will say that it suffers from like being too similar in design. I do like how it plays though. I'd probably put it here. Probably better than Gyarados. Mega Pidgeot, one of my favorite Mega Evolutions. Too bad it's on Pidgeot. No, I actually think Mega Pidgeot is the like is a good Mega Evolution. It's just stuck to a Pokemon that I have no interest in, which is a good thing because yes, I'm putting in A, but Pidgeot's one of my least favorite Pokemon in all of creation, and the Mega Evolution being this high, being above half, it shows that it's a good Mega Evolution. That's not to say it doesn't have its problems. I do think No Guard is really, really cool. I like the idea of it being like massive wings just throwing off hurricanes, which is similar to tornadoes in this regard. But there's a few like issues with it. And what design is great, it's Pidgeot. Pinsir. I actually really like Pinsir. Pinsir would probably be, I would say, like here. Now, we'll put it here. I love how they changed Pinsir into like from a like kind of bulky bug with a hard shell into like a glass cannon like flying type. It's funny, and also at the same time, I love the design, the way like everything comes together. It looks amazing. Mega Rayquaza is one of my favorite Mega Evolutions ever. Not because it's broken, but because design wise, it's super super like going to the ends of the earth to make this shit look cool, and it still is nailed. I love Mega Rayquaza, or Mega Rayquaza, if you know. Which goes into my least favorite Mega Evolution, and this is because Sableye is one of the best designs in Mega Evolution for the worst type of ideology. Let's make stall more. And that's all it ever became. I don't like when a Pokemon is completely like not warped, but taken to an absolute extreme of a non-fun metagame. There's a lot of them on here that's just like better Pokemon, which is pretty lame as well. But it's like, oh, it's really good at this one thing. Let's take it to the extreme, and that's Sableye. It's really frustrating. Which goes into Salamence. Now that we have like Roaring Moon and stuff, I do think that this design has grown on me. But originally, I used to think it was pretty shit. I still partially like give it some flack for being like kind of mid, but design wise and having fun with it, it's very enjoyable. Mega Scizor, it's kind of like in the same Heracross boat, but it's a little better. I think it looks much more menacing and much more steel typey, which is not a sense at all, but it's similar to Metachamp from earlier. Like, it's just more of the same. Which goes to Sharpedo. It's more of the same, except the design is a little better. That's literally it. I do like how you play this. It's a very glass cannon Pokemon, but that's the way it be. We have Slowbro. I get it. If we're talking about like stall stuff, it's not a very fun thing, but I actually really like Slowbro. Mega Slowbro is very fun, and I do love that Slowbro and Slowking have kind of gotten a bit of like notice in the past, at this point 4 generations. It's very nice to see it with like Regenerator and stuff, and that's a little annoying, but I do like that for being one of the classic Kanto, it's still like staying around even with its slow speed tier. Mega Steelix is one of my favorite Pokemon. I don't really like Onix, but Steelix himself is one of the greatest like evolutions that was added to Gen 2. It just never really got like anywhere, right? It just never got to be anything. And I think Mega Steelix never really got to be anywhere as well, but I love its design way more. And it's also just it's so cool. It's so cool. It definitely doesn't beat Mega Rayquaza, but hey, you know what does? Tyranitar. Am I putting Beedrill at top? I am going to move probably Diancie to get a 5, but I love Tyranitar's design. It looks more monstrous, which I already gave a lot of credit to Garchomp, Mega Garchomp in this case. And at the same time, I do think it kind of fulfills a different need to Tyranitar. It also has the same problem that I talked about where all these Pokemon are still doing the same exact thing, but it feels a little different with Mega Tyranitar. It feels a little better at doing it, and at the same time, it allows some really weird stuff to kind of occur, where you can go like a Tank Mega, or you can go with like pure offense Dragon Dance Mega, and it kind of facilitates not different strategies, but those odder strategies that didn't really work that often. I guess I am putting Dancy there. I guess I have. We have double snake. Is there anything that I think should change? I think Sableye is my least favorite. I'm kind of okay with this. A lot of these I know aren't like people's favorite choices. A lot of them are based on like sometimes just design flat out, or they're based on how they played, or just like a combination of both. And sometimes they're really not that great of a statistic here. But overall, that was a nice little video, kind of ranking all the megas that we have, and hopefully we can rank some more in the future when ZA comes out. I'm excited to see if we get the mega starters or whatever have you, but I'll talk about that at a later date. Overall, this is my top 5. I think it's a pretty unique top 5, but hey, what's your favorite mega just in general? Because I do think Mega Beedrill being my favorite is kind of just funny, really.